Kyle Shanahan can now concentrate on the offense. When you have a young, and this is the mistake that he made, and I think that if you asked him, and Kyle's a very honest guy, as soon as Nick leaves the building, he doesn't want to offend Nick Sorensen. And it's not Nick Sorensen's fault necessarily, but he didn't have the experience. Now, if you're Tennessee, who's got the first overall pick in the draft, and you want your coaching staff to grow with a young football team, you can make that. You can make that hire. You can have a rookie defensive coordinator. You can't with the 49ers or the Packers or the Eagles or the Lions, or you've got to have guys, because you're in a Super Bowl window. You got to have experience in that position. And now Robert Saleh, if you look across the offensive coordinators that they're going to go up against, he's seen it all. And Robert Saleh is not going to be like, oh my God, wonder what this guy's going to do. He knows tendencies. He knows everything. And so what Kyle can do in that situation is go, oh. Like he can concentrate on offense now. He had to look at special teams constantly. Like, Brian Schneider, what the hell are you doing, man? You're costing us games. Momentum changing plays. Do I have to stick my head in this meeting? I don't want to do that. Despite the fact that Kyle said, yeah, I'm into special teams. I drafted a kicker in the 3rd round. Anybody who knows anything about the 49ers knows that that's not really what he wants to be doing. And anybody who knows anything about the 49ers knows that Kyle Shanahan wants a defensive coordinator that, not that he doesn't pay attention to. They talk all the time. It's not that. It's just, can I have an adult in the room so that I don't have to sit there and constantly worry about it? Because I got to worry about this offense. And the other thing I talked about with David is a number of things, but 𝐬𝐽 is probably going to come back and be that offensive coordinator. They had to go through the Rooney Rule to do it and talk to a number of different candidates. And they did that. And they did it in a way that I think is different than other teams. They actually, like the Iowa State offensive coordinator / wide receivers coach, they actually brought him in. And even though they weren't going to hire him, it's like, okay, that's a guy that's on our radar now. That's the whole point of the Rooney Rule is, okay, you may not hire that guy right away or that person right away, but at least you're putting them on the radar. So these Leslie Frazier interviews that like Dallas did, Leslie Frazier's like 70 years old. He's the assistant head coach of the Seahawks. He's not getting that job. He's African-American. So you shammed the rule, which is ridiculous. But anyway, that's a whole nother rant or discussion. Saleh gives you an adult in the room to play, to be the defensive coordinator. And Kyle can say, good, glad. Kyle's going to hire a veteran special teams coordinator. He's not going to have to stick his head in that meeting nearly as much. And now all of a sudden by that, he can concentrate more on the offense. Hopefully he gets 𝐬𝐽 in the room. And as David and I discussed, and I've been saying this for a long time, you can get somebody that Kyle trusts so that it's not Kyle. Kyle's brilliant, but like all of us, it's great to get input. That's why, like on this show, it's not a dictatorship. And if you say something smart that I haven't thought of, which a lot of people do, and I think, you know what, that's a great point. I love that. To think that you know everything is arrogant. Kyle at times had to be that way offensively because I don't think he had enough people in the room he could trust. Now I think of 𝐬𝐽, who's not going to call the plays, but he comes in and says, Kyle, have you thought of this? Or Kyle in the red zone, we're a little stale. We talked about that a lot last year, and everyone just said, it's Christian McCaffrey. It's just Christian McCaffrey. Like everything in life, it's a little bit of everything. Now, maybe Christian McCaffrey being gone is a little bit more than a little, but it's still, with him, it just wasn't him. It was stale play calling. It was predictability. It was all these things. And hopefully, I know that we're talking about Saleh here, but hopefully they can solve some of those issues. And that is solved by the defense. You don't have to worry as much the special teams. You don't have to worry about. Now you're focusing on what Kyle is truly good at and why he was brought to the 49ers in the first place. Call plays, concentrate on the offense, focus on new things because he knows Robert Saleh's got this. And maybe it's Brant Boyer. I don't know. He's been the special teams coordinator in New York for the Jets since 2016. And I'm sure the reason they brought him in, and you and I talk about this all the time, is because you know somebody. Well, Robert Saleh knows Brant Boyer. He was a linebacker and a special teams guy in the NFL for 10 years. Now, does that make him great? No. Nick Sorensen was a player too and played a lot on special teams. But I do think that he's an adult in the room too, where Kyle's going to focus. So that leads us to the conversation of optimism for the 2025 season. All right, let's review a few things here. Robert Saleh's back. That's huge. I don't know if you put that number one, probably. Because on a team that is so dominant where the head coach is so worried about offense, you get your defensive coordinator. That's your second most important position on your team. Ownership is one, front office, head coach. And on this team, it's the defensive coordinator. So it's a massive hire. Then you look at the other things in the offseason. I told you yesterday, and I don't know that this is going to be the case, but I'm getting optimistic about it. Is Matthew Stafford going to leave? I don't think he is, but I kind of got hyped when I saw that. Kelly, his wife Kelly reveals where QB is with retirement decision. So it's soon. You start talking retirement, it's soon. Then I did this yesterday as well. Heard Cooper Kupp may have just played his final game with the Rams. Yes, please. So first of all, I'd like him to be gone from the Rams. Second of all, I'd like him to come here. I don't think they have enough money to do that, but okay. Third reason for our fourth or wherever we are on the optimism meter, they have the 11th overall pick. Now, that's Mel's first mock, so I'm very aroused and excited, just like you are probably. And we'll do our share of draft talk on the show. I don't think they're going to take an offensive lineman. I wish they would. This guy's pretty good. I wish they really would, but I don't think they're going to, just because that's not what they do. And they still have Chris Forster as their offensive line coach, and he has a reputation of saying, we're not drafting anybody early. We're gonna make sure that we get guys that we can into those players, and we're not going to take guys high. As you can see there, they took McGlinchey 9th overall, this regime, but he didn't make it to a second contract, so I don't consider that successful. They took Dominic Purdy in the 3rd round, so that probably tells them further. Now, you can take interior linemen. Jake Brendel's got to be replaced. He was on the ground too much, and I do know this, that too much of offensive line talk, and you're going to get terrible ratings. So let's not stay too long on the O-line, but I don't think they're going to draft the offensive line. But my point in popping that up there is they are picking 11th, so that is positive. Another positive is we've put this graphic up before, and it's nauseating. Expected points on special teams. I mean, they weren't just bad. They were historically bad at minus 63.8, almost double of what the Ravens were. And if you look right there, Boyer was at minus 10.5. That's 23rd. It's not a great ranking, but as far as increasing concerned, it's a massive increase. That's like 50 points. So if it's Brant Boyer, you can see Jets there at minus 10.5. It's better. It can't be worse than it was. So special teams are going to be better. Defensive coordinator is going to be better. Maybe Kupp. It looks like Kupp's going to leave for sure, and maybe Stafford. But the biggest reason for optimism, and you know where I'm going here because you pay attention to stuff. Here's the easiest. Hopefully, that's really small, but hopefully you can see that. You see 32. That's when 32 is good. Special teams rankings, 32 bad. Defensive rankings, 32 bad. Offensive rankings, 32 bad. NFL draft, 32 bad, but 32 on strength of schedule is good. You see SOS up in that left-hand corner? That doesn't mean, like you're on a boat and you need to be rescued. Oh my God, help me, I'm drowning. It's not that. SOS is great when you're talking strength O schedule. And so they've got the easiest strength O schedule because they're playing a bunch of last place teams because after all, they were a last place team. So they get that schedule break. So it's a 415 winning percentage for the Niners. And I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and I'm going to get to this story in a little bit. It's a great story from last night and what's going to happen to me today. So pray for me, please, in advance. They, with that easy winning percentage, so they're going to play some teams. The thing my buddy and I were talking about last night was I feel bad for you if you have season tickets because most of the games outside of the divisional games, the Cardinals, the Rams, the Seahawks, they're garbage. I mean, they're just absolute flat-out garbage because they're such easy games. Now, the Niners should win all those games. Doesn't mean they will. But the home schedule is just like, bleh. But they're easy games, so you'd probably take it. But he's got season tickets, and he's like, I don't know if I can sell these next year because he sells like half of them, and so he can make his money back. And then he goes to the good games, sells the bad games. I'm like, they're all bad games. But strength of schedule-wise, that's great. So strength of schedule, defensive coordinator, concentrating on offense, Will Kyle. Special teams is going to change. 7th overall pick in the draft. So those who are, and then I think that the Brock deal is going to get done. Will it get done in time? I don't know, but they're going to get it done. It's not going to be an Ayuk situation, anything like that. It's going to get done. Hopefully before July, but who knows? It is complicated. Point is, that's a lot of positives if you put that in the hopper, that's a lot of positives for the 49ers and for you to feel good. Now, if they have injuries again, yeah, that's the total variable, especially in the NFL. You don't know that. But generally speaking, I know that's not great, but generally speaking, you don't have those kind of injuries year in and year out. 19 go to the Super Bowl, 20 injuries, and then you go to a couple of NFC championship games, you go to a Super Bowl, and then injuries again. So, yeah, every few years you're going to hit the injury bug. And hopefully the 49ers, if they get average injuries in the NFL, then the 49ers are going to win the division, I think. The Rams are good. There's no doubt. They have a lot of young talent. But if Cooper Kupp is gone, and I know Puka Nacua is really good, but if Matthew Stafford is gone, and I said this on Friday, then I think probably Sam Darnold's their quarterback because I think he's going to leave Minnesota. He's from Southern California, and that makes a ton of sense. As good as a season as Sam Darnold had, and I like Sam Darnold, he's not Matthew Stafford. Doesn't have the arm of Matthew Stafford, doesn't have the toughness of Matthew Stafford. Regardless that Stafford plays for the Rams, I think we can acknowledge that he's really, really good and a major difference maker. So what do you think of all that? I just explained all of that. Pretty good. I mean, I think you should feel pretty optimistic about things. And you know me. I'm not here cheerleading. I'm not here ripping. I'm not here. I kind of I don't I call it like I see it. I'm not a good person in terms of lying, or you take this side, I take that side. It's the ESPN talking head shows. The way I see it is the way I say it. And that's how I see it. I really think that people should be optimistic about next year if I was a 49ers fan.